Treading. Treading between our old world and our new world. Quantifying, bringing ourselves into that new scape and new space, bringing ourselves into our new nuance of ourselves, that new reality to ourselves, embracing the beauty by understanding the behavior. So I get us set up. Grand Rise, Divine Rise, blessed be to the day. May it be everything you require to create and quantify and bring you into that space out of the captivity, so you can be everything that you fucking supposed to be. Be fucking great. Be fucking awesome. Define your greatness outside of the trauma. Define your greatness outside of the awkward stance of putting yourself in positions simply to sustain what? These are the things I think about when I think about treading. For so many years of my life, up until I actually really got into my healing process, I'm gonna post a picture later to let y'all see what it, like an example of what it looks like when you do a intense shadow work session with yourself. I did not look happy at all. I thought I was smiling. I looked like I was 40. About 40. The whole process of me changed. But through the day of 10 on Thursday, the day of 10, the day 10 is the most malleable metal. This is how we shape ourselves before we get into that Venus energy on Friday and embrace the love of ourselves. So when we look at it, we think about the behavior of self is what we look at as the underline to coming into that self-awareness of ourselves. That underlying code of behavior that's ensuring the successful interaction despite the circumstances. That role that we take, that we honest and perfecting to ourselves into perfecting, balancing our authentic form, its substance, and the confidence that we take. It's very confident. It's very easy to be confident in I've been here, so this is all. It's very confident. It's very, you get a sense of confidence. We feel we have a sense of confidence in the aspects of whatever traumatic event or whatever we go through in our life. We have this sense of confidence because we know how to react to it. A lot of times we're in a space where we know how to preserve ourselves in that space because we know exactly how to react to it based on that preconditional state. Everybody leaves. Nothing new to me. You can't accept me. Either you with me or against me. We speak these things to ourselves on a normal basis. And not understanding what behavior or the underlying behavior that we're treading in. We tread in between this space of truly bringing ourselves into that balance, truly bringing ourselves into that perfected self, our authentic self, and keeping the old personalities. We keep ourselves in this space with ourselves of treading between the two worlds of ourselves, which is based on the trauma, based on the events, and then the world of us being within ourselves after doing the inner work and building our new foundation. When we think about treading, when I think about treading, you know, we do the gate talk, got the card right here. The first line on here is the role model. And when I think about being the role model, when we look at the definition of a role model, whether you consciously or unconsciously accept it, remember throughout the week we've been talking about the aspect of validation. If I'm stuck within the pillar of captivity, my captive mind, me being locked into a certain space, then I become the role model. I become the role model for this. I always seek for the opportunity to always speak that I've been hurt before. We've done this plenty of times. I've done this plenty of times, even just going through my healing process. Just going through the process. We waited for these opportunities just to say that I've been hurt. We wait for the opportunity to say that I've been through this and this has happened to me. We look for this opportunity. We always look for that opportunity to imitate, basically, the martyr complex. This is one of the major complexes that we're going to get into on Friday. This is the building to that. We love that martyr complex. We love being the sacrificial aspect in any situation. We love stating ourselves and being, I'm doing this, this, and this for this. I'm doing this for this. I'm doing this for family. I'm doing this for this. But it's all to perfect that martyr image. It's all to perfect this image of this is what this taught me. Unconsciously, we don't even realize that we do it a lot of the times. We want to stay in the personality that is safest. We don't want that. We don't want to actually tap into the true awareness of the negative. So since we don't tap into the true aspects of the negative, we get stuck in the polarity of our morality or the traditional aspect versus the immorality or things that are not based on our tradition. Things that are not based upon how I came up. For years and years and years and years and years, for us, we don't really teach. We simply imitate the lesson or imitate the behavior and bestow that upon our next self, that next gateway, that next space for ourselves. And when we're tested, we become tested into that memory. We test based on that memory. I was reading yesterday. I cracked open one of my books yesterday, and it's Gnostic. It's a Gnostic education book, and I was thinking about the aspects of preservation, the aspects of the heat or the friction in the state of renewal. Ask yourself when you're doing your internal work, when you come to me for a session, these are the things about us. We're going to discuss preservation. What are you preserving? We're going to discuss the aspects of raising your energy into that space. And we're going to break down into your renewal. For me, a narrative for myself in preserving. A lesson, you always have lessons of preserving. Every time you have a conversation with somebody and it gets heated or it comes to a certain space, you're being shown preservation. You're coming into this space of like, what am I preserving? What am I holding on to? What old narrative? This is a chance for me to come into my awareness. It's always a chance for me to become more aware of myself. Simply by you said something a million times and you never really thought about it. An unnatural thought process. It's a natural thought process, natural trigger reaction. I can't snap, that's why I got the ring so it makes the snap noise for me. You have this designated set of preconditioned reactions to anything that you're going into. This is when you're coming into the aspects of this balance. For every time that you're going into that space, why do you feel defensive? Why do you come into this stay defensive. Ask yourself a question. What are you trying to preserve? Whenever you come into a situation when it's a learning moment, open yourself up to when you go into that position, that conversation. Ask yourself, what am I preserving in this meeting? What am I preserving in this conversation? At the end of this conversation, what will I be preserving? Am I preserving the needed separation so I can grow? Or am I preserving what keeps me constricted or keeps me in that state of captivity? Captive to my emotions. Ask yourself the question. I'm asking this question all week to people. Do you like being in the passenger seat to your emotions? Take it one further. Do you like being in the back seat to your emotions and your shadows? Do you like being in the back seat to your emotions and your shadows? You passing out snacks from the back seat. You're feeding your emotions from the back seat. You're feeding your shadow from the back seat. So how much authority so now when you're going into your spaces in your life, you have this external sense of the byproduct in your life to make you feel like you are the authority. But I've said it before, authority ain't got nothing to do with control. Authority has nothing to do with control at all. Authority has everything to do with the intimate, in tune awareness you have with your power. Authority, authenticity is all based upon the intimate learning and understanding and awareness of your power, your energy, and how you define it. When we always stuck on the external aspect of the control, we always tread. And we say things to ourselves we'll say things to ourselves. I've said that shit to myself. I'm going to get this, and this done, and then I'm going to get into myself. Where does that come from? Ask yourself that question. Where does it come from? I said this to myself a lot of times, and I found myself in positions of giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, but it was always based on a precondition that I would never give that same energy to myself. But then without balance, there's always this need for the expectancy. Whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you bring it to the surface or not, you always have this underlining expectancy behavior, this behavior of expectancy. You'll put yourself in that position with yourself, and even though you don't voice it or you don't let it come to the surface, let the inner child bring it to the surface, you react into the impulse of it. I remember for myself, I would do things for people and I would say it to myself a lot of times like, I'm just doing this because I'm a good person. But then the respect aspect, like if I had people come over to the crib and they come to the house and I'm like, okay, cool, I bought the bottles, I didn't order pizza, I didn't order food, we got the music, I have everything taken care of. This underlying expectancy after everybody left and the shit would be a fucking mess, my underlying expectancy or the irritation would grow because I'm looking at them not throwing the cups away. I'm looking at them sitting around being loud. I had this one long ass table in one of my apartments, and I was watching motherfuckers break up weed on, and they got it stuck in the crevices in my shit, and I never spoke anything because my voice I was wavering my boundary because I was saying I'm trying to be nice to people. I'm trying to show people some things. I'm trying to show them this. I'm trying to show them what the life of them being in a good space gonna look like. I found myself treading in this all the time. We find ourselves treading in this all the time. You're coming into the authenticity of yourself. That same energy that you've been putting out into the world, it's time to turn it internally. That same energy that you've been putting so long outside of the world to maintain that image of being that best filter, whatever filter you chose, whether it's the best mother, the best father, the best boyfriend, the best girlfriend, the best husband, the best wife, the best son, the best employee, these best aspects that we put into our life, Those are just simply figures. These are just simply what I said last week, those phantom nemesis that we give ourselves. Because in the truth of you being honest to yourself, you being honest and being vulnerable with yourself, in order to be the best, that means you have first became the example in order to be able to speak openly. This kills expectancy. I'm telling you, it kills expectancy. Because now you're going to that space and you'll say, instead of waiting, because what happens when you're stuck in that little behavior underlying that expectancy, that's where the buildup comes in. That's where you start letting it all build up until it reaches that top layer of that expectancy. And then you allow it to erupt. And since it's undisciplined, you haven't defined it, you ain't looked at it, you ain't aware of it, you allow it to erupt into your space. And then you sitting there, you the She-Hulk, you the regular Hulk, you sitting out there mad at the world for a whole bunch of time, and then you come back into the space where you start, the inner child feels guilty. This is following that trend of that trauma to that inner work. This is when your inner child comes out in that decline. Your inner child comes out in the decline. All of the true aspects of yourself in the feelings come out in the decline. The decline is always, you always need the aspects of the decline. That decline is what's going to teach you. In the decline of the emotion, when you start cooling off, when you start coming into that space, this is when you want to say, I'm sorry. This is when you want to, even if you don't, even to the aspect of your apology is based on this false sense of, to yourself, of forgiveness, of acceptance or expectancy of, I said that I was sorry. I said that I apologize because you know what I've been through. You know that this happened. You know that this happened. But we never really get deeper into the conversation with ourselves. We only go as deep as we went deep into ourselves. So you keep having these same patterns or these same outcries, and then on a day like today, you meet Papa Lucifer. I want you to be the best. I desire you to be the best. I desire you to do that inner work. So many times we come into a space with ourselves where we get stuck not doing that inner work. We acquire all of this information and allow it to be stored into that, keep us in a gray area inside of ourselves and not really do that internal work. I was discussing a pre-consult with somebody yesterday, and they were like, I'm 44. I think I got too many shadows to deal with. I said, no, you don't. I was talking with somebody last week, and there's always this aspect of time, this precondition of time. They always feel like it's too late because you're stuck within that precondition of time. You're treading on that timeline. When you're in this tread of timeline, it's going to start happening in multiple layers in your life. So now, since you're thinking that you're too old for the aspects of actually doing your healing work, really look at the other things that trigger you. This is how you start learning these triggers. Look at the other things that trigger you based on that same narrative, because they all are feeding that too late narrative. They're all feeding that unhealed aspect. They're all feeding that unhealed aspect or that emotional stunting that you had in your life. You've been ahead. You've been so, I've said it before, you're so far ahead that you're behind. You've grown in a mental aspect. You've grown in a physical aspect. You've grown in a financial aspect. But all of these are in a struggle. This is where we start getting into the struggle. We'll get into that Friday. This is where we start to struggle, because the key element to these factors, these senses, these are based on the senses, they're all based on your energy and motion. So if my energy is stunted in a lower motion based on that lower aspect of myself from that trauma, from that event in my life, those negative events in my life, then I can't bring charge and balance to the financial aspect of my life, my energy, my currency. I can't bring full balance and consistency to the physical aspects of my life. I can't learn things like, I can't do something like semen retention. I can't learn the higher aspects of the tantric aspects of the physical being. I can't expand my mind has to a certain point, because there's always a breaking point or a nervousness. Like, if I go too far, then what next? There's always that underline. That's always that underline in that behavioral process. And this is what we work on. This is your work. That dream relationship that you're wanting is going to be in that shadow work. That dream job that you've been wanting to get you everything you desire so you can start manifesting and tapping into your abundance and tapping into your power, it's going to be in that shadow work. That aspect of that dream job and that dream house and these dream aspects, that these admirations that you have for yourself, that furthering your education, all of these aspects, it's all going to start with that shadow work. Because until you embrace the shadow work, you're going to keep going off the same behavioral pattern. I don't want to go back to struggle. I don't want to go back to looking broke. I don't want to go back to the hand-me-downs. I don't want to go back to sitting in the pissy hallway. I don't want to go back to this state of mind. I don't want to go back to being afraid to go home. A lot of us are afraid to go home. But is your house in order? I want you to be the fucking best. This week, God Hour Podcast, we got into Pillars of Captivity, got deep into the aspects of causation, getting stuck within that space. We got deep into that mask of reoccurrence and the mini masks that we wear. And we got into that breakdown of understanding that breaking down those pillars and to build into this week's podcast. Spotify, iTunes, Breaker, Podcast Addict. This week, Friday, tomorrow, on the day of Venus, we're getting into amorality, the end of cycles. Stay tuned for that information. Stay tuned for that post, and subscribe, share, like. Tune in to Tap Out, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Friday, we get deeper into a topic. Share this video. Share this live if it resonates with you and you feel like you need that work. Hit me in the inbox. Hit me at GodaCallAlchemistLLC.com. Show that support to the growth, show that support to your lesson. The reciprocity is the more that I learn is the more that I teach. The more that I teach, the more open I become, the more honest I become, the more vulnerable I become. Vulnerability, honesty, and openness are the aspects of you coming into your truth of your authentic self. This is how you start becoming aware of your authentic self. The true aspect of you, outside of all the personalities, outside of all the splitting your energy. You're in a better space now. I guarantee you are in a better space now. It's up to you to invest into the change. Through that change causes this natural separation. That separation causes that need for the elevation. I love you. We love us. Ashe.